Welcome, guys, to another episode of Twisted News, where we get you up to date on some of the craziest stories currently happening all around the world. Today, we're diving into the realm of the supernatural and unexplained phenomena as we're covering an interesting story about one of my favorite topics, and that is the Mandela Effect, and it involves Sinbad and Shaquille O'Neal. And the other is a mysterious ghost that was caught on camera by a trucker, and the footage is worth checking out. Get ready for Scary Mysteries, Twisted News. Number 1. Mandela Effect, Sinbad, Shazam. If you're a millennial like me, I was born between 1981 and 1996, and for some strange reason, we seem to be prone to experiencing the Mandela Effect fairly often regarding some childhood shows, products, books, and movies. The Mandela Effect is where a number of people remember something one way, while another group of people recall it another way, and typically there is proof which can make it all that much stranger if you swore to having experienced something that just didn't happen or doesn't even exist. One of these instances that recently blew up over the internet is the mystery of a supposedly memorable movie that, despite having numerous fans and people who vividly remember seeing trailers and watching the entire movie, apparently doesn't exist. And while I personally never saw the movie we're talking about today, I can remember as a kid this film being promoted and its main character, Sinbad, dressed up as a genie, and I'm not alone. But this movie is nowhere to be found now, as it was never made in the first place. So recently, a couple of Reddit threads from 2020 have resurfaced due to millennials having a sort of group flashback. This year, DC superhero movie Shazam! Fury of the Gods, the second of a movie series, was released commercially. While fans of that movie franchise have expressed their excitement over it, many people in the Reddit thread were also talking about the original Shazam from back in the mid-90s. This Shazam movie starred comedian David Adkins, also known as Sinbad, as Shazam, a clumsy and somehow incompetent genie who was accidentally summoned by a brother and sister. But here's the messed up part. People can't seem to find a copy of the movie or any other information about it. There's no clips or old news articles that talk about its release, blockbuster standing, or even just old movie reviews. It doesn't exist on IMDb, and it's not on Sinbad's resume. Which is why fans of the Sinbad Shazam are sort of losing their minds despite their collective, vivid memories about it, without any concrete evidence to back it up. The search for any evidence of the movie's existence even led to a YouTube channel feeding that strong nostalgia. College Humor uploaded what seemed to be a scene from the movie where the siblings first met Shazam by accidentally summoning him. The video is grainy, with parts of the scene cut off by even grainier bits of old 90s commercials in between. Some were sort of convinced it was legit, especially because Sinbad played the role of the genie, but actually it was an April Fool's joke from the comedy site done using some deepfake technology. The comedian himself, as well as his daughter, musician Paige Adkins, both refuted these claims and conspiracy theories, telling people to stop with the Shazam stories, even stating that Adkins never made a genie movie. Despite all this, however, many Redditors continue to share their comments regarding the movie or the vivid memories they have about it. Some claim that it was their favorite childhood film growing up, and that they repeatedly watched it and even had VHS copies. But as of today, no one has actually shared proof of a VHS copy even existing. Due to this, online articles have dubbed this as another example of a Mandela Effect, which is where a thing or event is remembered differently by a group of people. The whole concept of this effect stemmed from a statement made by a paranormal consultant named Fiona Brome, who recalled the death of South African President Nelson Mandela in prison back in the 80s. This, however, is not true because the president lived until 2013. But the mysterious part about it was that Brome wasn't the only one who had that memory, as there were several others who shared remembering the same thing, thus the name Mandela Effect. And there are many other examples as well that different factions remember differently, such as Looney Tunes versus Looney Tunes, Berenstein Bears versus Berenstain Bears, and the iconic line by Star Wars antagonist Darth Vader. Some say it's Luke, I am your father, versus I am your father. Experts believe that these instances are a result of the brain creating false memories to help in completing the timeline or filling in the gaps of information in our memories. Some say that people aren't remembering Shazam at all, but are instead falsely recalling Kazam, a 1996 film starring NBA legend Shaquille O'Neal as the genie Kazam, with Michael Glazer at the helm. The plot was completely different, though, and even the costumes, as the Shazam fans recall it, were not the same. Even more so, all the Shazam fans recalled how they didn't like Kazam, claiming it was a weak copycat of the former. Even Paige mentioned that her father was often mistaken for O'Neal. It was no surprise that people experienced the Mandela Effect in this situation. Aside from that, other Shazam debunkers also found evidence where Sinbad could be mistaken as a genie. Sinbad himself shared on Twitter an old photo of himself wearing a genie costume, saying it was when he hosted an afternoon of Sinbad movies. There's also a time when he was a character in a Nickelodeon show called All That, wearing an ensemble that resembled a genie's fit. Despite all that, though, the Shazam fans remain unconvinced. Some even cite that there must be a conspiracy theory regarding the disappearance of the movie, perhaps due to how Sinbad himself didn't want to be reminded of the film, which some thought didn't do well in the market. All this, however, remains unconfirmed. The website MoviePhone.com has the Shazam movie in its roster, naming Chris Columbus as its director and Devon Sawa and Tina Majorino as the child actors who played the roles of siblings Sam and Maggie. The movie was said to have been released on the 17th of June of 1994 and has a runtime of 1 hour and 34 minutes. The synopsis of the movie narrates that after Sinbad grants the children's wishes, he brings them on a journey that somehow makes them realize that in the end, they only wish for their father to fall in love again. So, did it exist or did it not? Either way, the way the human brain works is really fascinating. The phenomenon of the Mandela Effect is still not fully understood nor explained. And as long as we continue to experience similar instances, we'll always be wondering how we can be sure of the things we think we know. And then again, maybe this is all just the simulation, and the Mandela Effect is just a glitch in the Matrix. Number 2, hitchhiking ghosts caught on camera. There's a lot of benefits to driving at night. The roads are less congested, so less traffic, and it's a lot cooler and quieter, which can make a trip smoother in general. But just as with anything else, there's always a flip side. Travelers at night are more prone to dangerous situations involving criminals looking to take advantage in the dark. It's also when people can fall asleep at the wheel and run into trouble. And then there's also something else that, while unexplainable, only seems to pop up in the dead of night. And that's that eerie feeling that you're not alone out there on those dimly lit roads. Recently on March 11th, while driving through Arizona on Route 87, truck driver William Church was just cruising down the empty road. The drive, as seen on his dashboard camera, looked smooth, peaceful even, with no other cars in sight. He was accompanied by another driver that evening, who drove the truck before him, Erica Lake. And then, out of nowhere, an odd movement ahead of them caught both the drivers' attentions. There seemed to be something on the right side of the road, something spectral moving towards the left. William described it as looking like a person standing on the side of the road. Erica, however, saw the curious image differently. In an interview, she said that she too thought it was a human at first, but as they approached and passed the curious figure, she said that the upper part of the body, all the way to the face, was indistinguishable. very much like a ghost. As seen in the video, William veered away slightly to the left as if to give it enough space to avoid colliding with it. They couldn't believe what they had seen, and at the next rest stop, the two decided to review their dash cam footage and saw that it had also captured it. The bright yet misty image was impossible to miss, and the two were convinced that this wasn't any ordinary person stepping out along the side of the road. This 96-year-old highway is considered one of the most dangerous roads in Arizona for its looping turns, as ranked in an article published by the Valley Chevy dealers. Because of its long history and accidents that have occurred, it can't be helped that some people think it's a haunted road. Everyone will have their opinions whenever something pops up regarding the supernatural. However, not everyone gets to capture evidence of their experience on video. So, where do you stand? Do you think it's a fake, or perhaps just some bit of thick mist that vaguely looks like a person? Or did these two drivers on an Arizona highway actually see a ghost? So there were two of the most interesting cases that we have for you today. If you enjoyed this episode, please check out our Patreon. Over there, if you join us, you have access to over 100 other videos we've done. We recently just covered 5 dangerous social media influencers, and that video is pretty messed up, so if you're into that kind of thing, you gotta go check us out. Thanks guys for tuning in. Stay safe out there. I'll see you soon.